They're just declarations. God says life is good. And then they converted that, well, there's no God, so then they just converted that to Mother Nature wouldn't have made it if it's not good, or some other kind of absolute crap that has nothing to do with anything called evidence or truth or logic or reasoning or any of that shit. So anyway, I just would like to contrast these two positions of pro-life and anti-imposition, you could say. Certainly you could just say anti-life, as long as you understood what that means. It doesn't mean harm or killing or murdering. It just means don't make it. They don't do anything productive. They're mess makers and they only clean up half the mess they make. They're mess makers and they only clean up half the mess they make overall. So if you put a bunch of them somewhere, you're guaranteed to have a mess left over. Just guaranteed. And so this is where the argument again breaks down, because these evaders will sit there and pretend, oh, this isn't about a bunch of them. This isn't about the whole. It's just about me. It's just about my life. And then they're doing that from a position where their life is an example of failure. And they're still making this arrogant statement that, no, I'm pro, in spite of the fact that I have dismally failed, which doesn't make any sense at all. Where they're an example of the mess maker. Tragic failure. Catastrophic failure. Starting with that premise. Now, if you want to argue that, no, that's not what life is a perfect roller coaster, then you're really a lunatic. So, I mean, if you're conceding, if you have to concede at least that this is very dangerous, it can end for individual lives in complete catastrophe, failure, total loss, so to speak, big fat red number. And yes, and sometimes you can take the ride and you'll scream and get excited and you'll survive and you won't be too beat up. And the question is, though, is as a rational person, when there's no need to take the ride, take the ride. And if you say you're pro-life, you have to accept that you're pro every bit of it. You can't just pretend it doesn't come as a package deal, because it does. Is that he has it in the context of his own life experience, which demonstrates how you don't fuck with this stuff, that we're not competent, that we don't have the necessary character, that we are too distractible, that we will, instead of thinking about I'm raising human beings, he has to admit he was spending a little too much time saying, I like to play pool and get drunk with the fellas in my personal house where I'm supposed to be raising human beings. That kind of bullshit. And he can't even admit that. I mean, it's a bleak time to be a human being. And he's talking about how I have the emotional problem, how I'm not seeing the wonderful promise and fantasticness that's just sitting there waiting for us. And as somebody who's sat on the roller coaster and watched what happens on the roller coaster, and had some of it happen to me, but I've been very lucky, and I'm very aware of how fucking incredibly lucky I have been, and that awareness makes me very aware, almost more aware than if it actually had happened to me, if I was actually one of the victims, because I've had the time to reflect. I haven't been distracted by the absolute horror. I've had the horror, but not the absolute horror. So I haven't been consumed by it, where I'm just totally distracted by my personal condition. So I have the opportunity to see it and reflect on it rationally and say, gee, you don't do this. This is I would never get back on this thing again, because I can see what my fate would have been. That would have been my fate, or that would have been that. I wouldn't want to do that for Trump's billions. I wouldn't want to be that asshole. I wouldn't want to spend 10 seconds in that cranium. And living in that Borg, living in that concentration camp that you're calling Paradise Island. This is a misadventure. This isn't great adventure. This is a misadventure. I'm a misadventurist. Anti-misadventurist. Don't have them. Don't make stupid mistakes. Yeah, I don't like impositions either. And yeah, misadventures are stupid. Don't do something that's unnecessary. Don't put kids on rickety roller coasters. You can't raise your hand and say that. How rickety do I have to make it? So I've made this argument so many times in the past. But I mean, how many kids can you kill and it's still okay to have kids? How many can you give cancer to? What number do I have to increase it to before you say no mas? I mean, 9 out of 10 lion cubs are killed. Do I have to make it, 29 out of 30? Or 500 out of 501? I mean, how bad do I have to make it before you say no mas? No, that's a misadventure. That's a stupid mistake. Don't press the go button on that. Don't defend that. So how bad do I have to make it? How bad do I have to make World War II for you to say, oh, you'll never make up for that. You'll never pay for that war. I mean, in the sense, we'll never do anything good enough to justify all those dead kids. And a lot of them were kids. We'll never defend. We'll never do anything of such. We'll never dance a good enough dance to justify that price of admission. That price of admission was insanely high, and the floor show is insanely insipid. Just a bunch of people saying, turn on the news and let's see if we can jerk off to it. See if there's any murders I can enjoy watching, and maybe some cop will beat up some homeless dude. Yeah, I love that shit. Yeah, that's not worth it. That's not worth the big toe of one of the victims of World War II. And that's all we've got to show for ourselves. And you keep pretending, oh, no, we're not all full of shit. Yeah, no, we're full of incredible shit. Hello, I'm alone in here by myself. It's better than a crowd, to tell you the truth. The rest of the sunflowers are just end up being assholes. If you have the opinion that this is a rickety roller coaster, highly dangerous, and really just silly, because we're basically all just robots anyway, working out our programming. And so we're not even doing anything truly original or truly creative or any of that shit. We're just reflexive byproduct organisms of the trend line and blah blah blah. Nothing, it really is deflating in a sense of personal ego stuff, because you really didn't earn it. Nobody earns it. I was just saying, yeah, so we're just robots, and I was saying something. Maybe I'll go back to what I was saying. I don't remember what I was saying. I just, yeah, so whatever. Yeah, the emotional thing. So yeah, just keep talking as if you have to be some miserable person. I've never been a miserable person, especially in my interactions with other people. I've always tried to be helpful and upbeat. I always try to, if there's a way to make them, it's almost the argument, I give people the opportunity to take the pressure off themselves. It's almost why I make the argument that, look, you don't have to be a perfect vegan. You don't have to be you don't even have to be a vegetarian. You just have to defend the idea that that's the way we should make human beings if we're going to bother making them. There's no need to make them meat eaters. It's proven fact they can do just fine not being. And even that statement is a valuable statement. And so, but anyway, so it's this idea that I'm not sitting here trying to get people to be depressed or gloomy about existence. I'm making an argument that when you're going to do this serious philosophy stuff, right, in your day-to-day life, you have to get caught up in it. You get caught up in your fetishes, your desires, and you enjoy your cupcakes, a metaphor for the variety of pussy you like, and you fuck it. And I'm totally with that. There's no argument against living your own personal little life and sailing your own little boat. But I'm saying that when you're going to have a serious conversation about these important acts of creation and infrastructure and what we should invest money in or human capital in, those questions are not personal, subjective ones. Those are not about what your favorite candy is. Those are bigger questions, and they require an honest and real conversation. And so that conversation might be discouraging, like you find out I'm a robot. Ooh, that's a little, ooh, I'm just a robot. I didn't write any of the programming. Culture did, science did, lots of things did, but I didn't do it. Anything we can call an eye. The eye was made of all of this other stuff. The ingredients are all external ingredients. The internal ingredients, even my parents, certainly aren't me. So I didn't make those. I didn't make the genetic ingredients, and I certainly didn't make the environmental ingredients. So most of what I am is just a mixing bowl, and I didn't even make the shape of the bowl.